Good morning, everybody. America the Beautiful. Ray Charles version. I wish they had an Elvis version too. Mixed with Ray Charles, it would be unstoppable.
Who more than self their country loved, and mercy one life.
A lot of you guys don't know it, but I go to black church a lot because I play organ myself. And I go there just to listen to America. America.
May God thy gold refine till all success be nobleness.
Man, if you guys haven't seen this video by Ray Charles,
You know when I was in school, we used to sing something like
this.
Spacious skies.
Forever waves of grain. Forever waves of grain, baby.
Purple
Mountains, majesty, from where I come. Now wait a minute.
Now wait a minute.
Yeah, Ray, tell him. New Orleans. I've lived all these places, dude. Sweet America.
You know, God done shed His grace on thee.
Frisco Bridge, Venice Beach. I've lived these places.
Yes, He did. Every brotherhood from sea.
This is going someplace. I like to start my Mondays out with what's important. Huh. The Five Sisters. Right down the street. I love you, America. God shed His grace on me. The St. Louis Arch. I got family there. Hey. I want to tell you guys good morning. So, developments going on in my life. I've got a couple shows lined up. And so, I'm not going to post a lot between now and until those shows are done. I do want to let you know that I've got an individual that keeps me blocked off of their Facegram or their Instagram account that put out a video. And I do want to let you know that I have emailed Naval Administration, Public Sector, and they emailed me back. This is last week. They emailed me back and told me to get in touch with SOCOM and NCIS to see if this guy ever trained there. And it turns out as soon as I start doing this stuff, the guy posts something on his Instagram account with them some pictures. He's had his thing out now since 2016 and hasn't ever posted these pictures. I still haven't seen a picture of him in a truck with other people, which would be something you would feasibly do. He says that he's done it himself. And so I got in touch with Travis Haley, the MARSOC Marine, emailed him through the sales portion on his GSA service account. He does training for the government, so I don't want to get into a great big thing. This is just going to be a little bit of a video because I'm not going to post a lot between now and the end of April, and I want you to know why. The reason why is because these are two like major shows, and I got to make sure that there's such a thing as developing a story organically. And I've been critical of this person because they're talking to our politicians, and I've been quiet for several years. I email people to find out if this guy has in fact been who he stated who he's been, and I asked the people that he stated that he's trained with straight up, whether or not they've trained him. And they have like some type of like major secret when there's like 45-minute documentaries on every aspect of Bud's training, and then and all it is tactical magazine exchanges and C-clamping with your weapon when you're engaging your opponents. I mean, that's really all the more it is. And he adds a ITAR, I'm referring to Travis Haley, adds an ITAR, which is International Trafficking in Arms Regulations, adds an ITAR thing on the end of his email. And this is last week. I email his sales department. He gets back to me 31 minutes later. I respond to him 50 minutes later with exactly who I am, and he doesn't want me to say what his email is, but I can paraphrase it. He's basically asking me for security reasons why I'm interested in vetting this guy. Well, because he's blasting his stuff all over the internet and has been for the last 10 years, and no one's ever really vetted him. And then when I start being critical on my channel since January, now he's posting pictures of him training and then him training. And if you watch the Tracker Dan interview, the guy that supposedly trained him or whatever, he's best friends with him, and Tracker Dan is a SEAL. They're talking about chewing charcoal to cover up your breath in case you're being chased by your enemy to hide yourself. Great point. Wow, that's top notch. Or how to weave grass. I spent 8 years in the Bering Sea. How to weave grass so you can suspend a kettlebell from a bench, which I can totally do. Well, it depends on the thickness of the grass, but if I had tree bark, you can bet your britches I can suspend that, because we spend a large, inordinate amount of time of splicing rope and mending nets when you're in the Bering Sea. You better bet your bippy. So I emailed Travis back, Travis Haley at Haley Strategic Companies. And it's crazy. This is last week, so they can respond to me in 31 minutes if there's money involved, but then let it go Thursday, Friday, whatever it is, Saturday, Sunday. Now we're Monday. It was on the 6th, so whatever that was. March 6th. I haven't heard anything from him, even though I want to validate that the guy that's speaking to my politicians is who he says he is. And then this guy acts like it's top secret stuff, whether or not you trained with someone in 2010 or 2011 or what. No, it was actually April of 2012 is when he's posting this on Mexico Armada Forum. And I now have some names because Ed posted, not supposed to say that name, posted the name by someone called Alfredo Arenas Moreno, who is the person that's in charge, who subsequently was in charge of like some type of municipal transportation stuff back in Tijuana. But I now have something that I can go down, and the news agencies that supposedly published Policía Estatal Preventiva being trained by Navy SEALs, and all I'm asking is in what scope and when. And this person's talking about the Gaffe interview that I referred to. I still have a Navy SEAL saying that they've never seen this individual, and to ask what Master Chief signed his certificate from the Tactical Jump Center at Skydive San Diego. Two things that he still hasn't posted. And if he posts those, I'll just shut right the hell up. I'm not supposed to be cussing or anything, so I'm not. But I mean, it's really irritating to me that people act like this is some national secret stuff when the guy comes to the United States, blasts his stuff everywhere to sell knives through Elvia, LTD, and other stuff. And when I ask him for a moment of his time, he blocks me from Instagram, and he won't do an interview with me, but he will do an interview with a Tijuana drug dealer that's been on camp. I'm going to leave the names out of it, but it's been on he has his own podcast, El Bordo Podcast, and admits openly to having Sicario hitmen friends. And this guy can do an interview with him, but can't do an interview with someone that was authorized to work through the entire Mexican Republic armed with weapons. And so my question to my viewers is why? Why is that? Why would someone be willing to speak to someone that they supposedly were hunting, right? El Bordo Podcast, it's right there. He's got him on there. And if you look through the videos, he admits to having friends that are sicarios, that are hitmen. It's right on there. And if you watch all the stuff with Tracker Dan, and they have 3 videos, and they don't go into any of the training that they did together, short, and I admit that I fast forwarded through a lot of it, but it's in the chapters, and if it's such a big deal, I think that there would be a chapter dedicated to it. I found that Tracker Dan taught him how to chew charcoal to cover up your breath, like that's some type of life-saving skill. I've never heard of it, you know. And then how to weave grass into a rope so you can suspend a kettlebell, which is, I will admit, a useful skill, but how relevant is that to avoiding cartels and getting out of, if you're inside of a building, maybe you're going to pull some grass from the cement floor and weave a rope and rappel. I don't know. If it sounds like I'm really not trying to like come across as like a jerk. My honest and sincere question is why Travis Haley won't answer an email, because he won't, and he'll stick an ITAR regulation at the end of his email, at the tail end of it. And let me tell you something about ITAR regulations. I know a lot about them. I was a manager for manufacturing, for the manufacturing sector and engineering sector of an aerospace factory in a foreign country. So I know all about ITAR regulations, okay? I also went to law school, and I'm not going to repeat that email. Not because of ITAR regulations. There's nothing in it that correlates to divulging technical or trade secrets to foreign nationals when you're putting videos out all over YouTube of the same course material that I'm referring to, specifically towards a foreign national, of whether or not you've ever trained them. And now apparently SEALs have trained state agents in Coronado, which is great. You know what? I don't mind being proven wrong, but I do like clarity, okay? I'm not going to repeat Travis Haley's email because, ironically, of copyright infringement, which means that when you author an email, there is an expectation of privacy if the person says that it's confidential, where potentially they could have standing or legal grounds to challenge you that way in a court. And so I'm going to leave that portion of it alone. But he does ask me what I'm doing now, as though that's somehow relevant to whether or not he ever trained Ed, right? He asked me where I was, which I told him exactly where I was. I told him exactly what I do now. I told him why I want to know, which are all questions that he's asking me. I want to know because this guy's talking to our politicians, Travis. Travis, if you're watching this, you're a stud. Professional snowboarder. I'm a snowboarder, skateboarder, surfer. I still do to this day. So, you're top of the line special operations personnel. But when we're talking about tactical magazine changes and C-clamps to engage your enemy faster, as opposed to grabbing the magazine well, I'm not asking for like state secrets, right? And I'm not really, I could post, and if anyone forces me to, I can post my response to it, exactly when and where I was working and for whom, and sent pictures so he knows. And I get crickets. And I'm starting to wonder if there's a bigger story here. I'm starting to wonder if the story is that people are making so much money off of GSA contracts or government service agreement contracts, because in order to do business with the government, you have to get what's called a GSA number, and you have to go on an approved vendors list. And from there, once that's approved, then the government, the federal government of the United States of America, is authorized to do business with you. Or more specifically, you are authorized to do business with contractors, whatever that looks like. It could be janitorial services, it could be toner cartridges, it could be whatever. It could be tactical training. So, when I came back, and I've had the opportunity to involve myself in security training and stuff like that here in this country. And I have opted not to do that because a lot of it's a sham. A lot of it is you training Billy Joe Jim Bob, and I spent a large portion of my life in Redneckville, so I'm not talking smack. But a lot of it is you training Billy Joe Jim Bob and his cousin Hank how to fire their weapons more effectively. And then Ed is teaching escapology and is acting like his time with FBI at Quantico, because I saw that he posted. He's got me blocked off Instagram, so I can't engage him directly in front of his audience. And I get it. He's got like 15 or 17,000 followers over there. But when you're posting a picture of you in front of Overseas Awareness Survival Program, which is a course that could be taken for $385 by the children of diplomats and dignitaries that are traveling to hostile areas. If you're in Mexico, congratulations. You already know how to survive in a hostile area. And the course is 2 days. But you're acting like it's 6 months at the farm or whatever it is. I'm right to challenge it. I'm right to call that out. And I'm right to ask this individual for the opportunity to talk to him, being that we wore the same uniform. And I'm right when you have the Navy and Navy SEALs and the lone survivor, and also maybe even the Anil thing, you have Navy SEALs embellishing, if not outright fabricating, bold-faced lies by the government. And I will go toe-to-toe with anyone in a debate about why we shouldn't challenge the truthfulness or correctness of what we are being told, when even the United States federal government wanted to come up with a misinformation or disinformation office. You know, how do you know what you're being told is true? Or even me, and I want to validate everything that I say. I don't have to have a pretty grill. I don't have to have a pretty face. I do have to have integrity. And I do. I have a bunch of it. Because I didn't always have integrity. I was misguided for the first portion of my life severely. I'm not even going to try to deny it, because I was. And there's no shame in that. Because I've self-corrected. None of us are perfect. And I live an honorable life. Have for several years, several decades. When I ask someone who is now law enforcement and SWAT and other stuff, and they want to act like, you have the good old boys club because they want to act like they're more high speed and top notch than you, even though they may or may not be, or they're getting older, but they still want to be relevant. Jocko Willink says something that's incredibly pertinent in one of his videos. He talks about people want to be in the know. And I've got a short, fast solution if you really want to be in the know about drug cartels, or about Ukraine, or about Afghanistan. If you really want to be in the know in any one of these places, all you have to do is go buy yourself a plane ticket, get on a plane, go over there, knock on the appropriate agency's doors and tell them, hey, I'm here and I want to serve. That's how you can be in the know. But obviously, most people don't want to do that. And I get it. What do they say? Like only 3% of the population served in the military or something like this, to this effect. And I get people want to be safe, but they also want to be in the know. When we're at home, and I have showed up, knocked on the door, been issued my FN Fall, been issued my Beretta ARX 160, been issued a Colt M4, been issued a Galil Ace 22, a Negative NG7. These are all weapons that I've carried in Mexico. And so there's a lot of places where this other person has contradicted himself. And I'm not going to be making any videos until I go do these major shows, because I'm going to generate an audience. And I haven't monetized any of my videos. And when I do the shows for the other people, I'm not making a nickel off of that either. Okay? The express purpose of this, Mr. Haley, the express purpose of this, Jeff Bramstedt, or any other person that I've spoken to, Jeff Bramstedt being a Navy SEAL, is to validate that people are being told the truth. When I was a misguided youth, I was not truthful. I was a liar. I got in a lot of trouble. The express purpose, Mr. Sean Ryan and Joe Rogan, is that we are honorable people and that we call people out when we hear something that doesn't sound right. Most Americans wouldn't know night from day when it comes to patrolling in Mexico, but I would, because I was there and I did it for several years. Didn't do it forever. I did it from May 2012 to the end of 2016, okay? So 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16. No more, no less. But definitely long enough to have gotten shot at, definitely long enough to have encountered bad guys, definitely long enough to know whether or not something smells funny when I hear it, and I hear it, and I'm telling you I hear it, and I've brought this up sporadically throughout the years on his comments, and instead of being, you know what, yeah, hey, let's have a back and forth. I can have a back and forth with cholos that sell drugs that know hitmen, sicarios for the cartels in Mexico, but I can't talk to one of my brothers in arms. You put that together. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not asking for any money. I'm not asking for anything. I'm asking to have a talk. And when I ask Travis Haley for a talk, I get nothing. Jeff Bramstedt talked to me, to his credit. Thank you. Scott Babb, to his credit, talked to me. Thank you. To clear these things up. Because Scott Babb in the Vice article is being quoted as he feels bad about Libre knife fighting, which I think Libre knife fighting is probably a pretty good system. I'm not making a penny off him. He's never asked me to say that, but I've watched their material. I've trained SIOC. I've trained with Dog Brothers. If you train martial arts long enough, basically judo's my thing, but if you train martial arts long enough, you're going to run into weapons. I dig Scott Babb's stuff, right? I really do. I don't know Scott Babb at all. I don't know him from my own mother. Never met the guy. But he sent an email and cleared up whether or not Libre has actually been used to take lives in the Mexican Republic. And he tells me that came from Ed. And I ask Ed, where and when? Because it's interesting to me how, I watched this video the other day, and there's something horrific that happened where I used to work in Jalisco. This could really turn into a long video, and I don't want it to. Mexican states have lots of borders like this with fingers that cross, and so you'll jump through 5 states in a course of a couple hours time. And this individual spoke about it. I'm not going to grift. I'm not making a penny off this. I'm going to say that I care deeply about both countries because I belong to both of them in a certain inseparable way. And I care about people on both sides of the border. I care about people in this country, in the United States, that I don't even know, that have a relationship with their wife and their children, and they wake up in the middle of a farm, because when I was a boy, I was on a farm for a long time. And the family units that exist both here and there in Mexico, I care about it. And there's a movie that just came out the other day about the same people that trained me and presumably trained Ed when we were in Mexico, which is GAFE Special Forces. And I know about this. And before we get into some other failed conflict, like Vietnam, like Afghanistan, and giving the Mujahideen weapons to fight the Russians, which were then used to fight the United States, which were then used to be given to the same people we were just fighting, but $1 billion of weapons and helicopters this time, and now we're going to go repeat the same mistakes in Mexico. I want you to know that when you do make a decision, it's an informed decision. That's all I want. And so for that, I've got this MARSOC Marine law enforcement SWAT person, Travis Haley, doesn't want an answer. A simple email about whether or not he ever trained Ed at NCIS or NSW, Naval Special Warfare, in any capacity officially for the United States Navy. And now I've got some names in Mexico that I can call. And it's ridiculous. I'm going to end the video with this portion. I was watching this thing called Gringo Hunters. It's something on YouTube to where they have fugitives that flee to Baja California, which is potentially where Ed worked. I don't know. But Ed talks about having worked in investigations and all this other stuff. They can blast their faces all over YouTube. He won't name them by names, but they'll blast their face all over YouTube, which the cartel that lives there could easily find them online on these videos. Let me tell you something about cartel intelligence, okay? Because I know a lot about this too, and I'm going to save a lot of this for the videos that I'm doing on the shows that are coming up. So I'm not going to go spouting off at the mouth. The cartel knows who you are the second you walk into those gates. They know where the base is. They know where people are being trained. They have people that have infiltrated there. They have people that have infiltrated here. They just got done busting BORTAC or border security guys for something else again. Rampart scandals, LA sheriff scandals and gangs, CIA selling drugs to crack cocaine. It's gone on since forever. So I've posted other videos about how the war, prohibition, etc. When we're talking about security in Mexico and cartel intelligence, let me just be clear about something. You are dead. I want to say it again. You are dead the moment you put that uniform on and walk into those gates, dude. The moment the bad guys or the good guys decide they want you to be, because the good guys can order you to your death, or the bad guys know who you are and often are working right next to you with the same uniform that you're wearing, which is a dynamic unique to Mexico. It's not like that in other places. Other places you basically know that people are on the same side. Not Mexico. And as far as like the special forces and whatnot, working down there training people, when you live and fight a war every single day, that it's not something that you deploy to, but you live it. You've been trained in special forces. You got Kaibilas from Guatemala that have been training people. The level of training that you have is very good. Very good. It almost permeates everything. The first gunfight that I ever got in, I got yelled at by a lieutenant colonel from the Mexican army because I was advancing in the middle of the street in Jerez. And there was 4 beheaded people there. 3 guys, 1 woman. And I got yelled at because I was advancing in the middle of the street. Right? So, this isn't something you train. You live this. This isn't something that you deploy to. You live this. So, when I'm asking something super simple about whether or not you've trained an individual, and then come to find out this individual on his Instagram page is posting public newspapers from Mexico stating the same, my only question is, okay, that's great. What was the scope of this training? What did you learn? Tell me it was more than chewing on charcoal and weaving ropes out of grass. And I'm right to ask, how is it you're doing VIP security, because you tell Dan Stanchfield that you have more executive protection experience than Dan, who's been trained by the Secret Service, which in Mexico I don't doubt. That I do agree. But if you're doing that level of VIP protection, how is it you have time to jump back and forth for several years doing seminars all over the Mexican Republic and the United States in Skokie, Illinois or whatever with the Chicago PD? How does that work? Because you don't get that much time off work. So these are still questions and doubts that I have that could easily be brought up. When I go on my shows, I'm going to give them a whited out copy of my name plus the original. The original I won't show. But that way people absolutely know the dates of my service, what I was doing, where I was working, and everything, because anybody can start a YouTube channel, put some stuff out there. Don Shipley makes his living off of exposing Navy SEALs. And when I go and hit these spec op people up directly, sometimes I get people like Navy SEAL Jeff Bramstedt to completely forthcoming. Puts me in contact with another Navy SEAL that's working in Mexico doing executive protection. Or I get the other end of the spectrum, Travis Haley, that wants to act like a C-clamp on your barrel is a national secret if you're teaching it to a Mexican, even though it's been reported on by newspapers in Mexico. So, that's basically enough out of me. You're not going to hear anything from me for about a month, okay? And that's why. I owe it to the people that I've agreed to speak to that I don't mess up their shows or anything in any way, because to them it's a business, and I get it. Business is business, and I'm a business guy too, man. I mean, we all got 9-to-5s or whatever to work, ways that we fill up our bank account with enough money to be able to pay food and provide for our families. So I'm completely respectful of that. And I want people to know that I have thrown the opportunity out to this guy to have an interview, and he doesn't want to, even though he'll interview drug dealing people with cartel, sicario, hitman friends right out of their mouth. And as far as the Agape 423 guy, he does sound, just the entire thing of security in general. When you mess with the cartel in any aspect, it is hazardous to your health. Okay? So when you go and put on a YouTube channel, I'm going to tell you right now that the cartel capabilities are as good as any state level organization that you'll meet. And the reason why is because they purchase people that have already done this for the government, and they pay them a lot more than the government will pay them. So any type of systems that need hacked, any type of human-tel, SIG-intel, or signal intelligence, human intelligence, they've already got access to all of that. So me emailing some private security training company about whether or not you've trained somebody isn't like anything crazy or out of line. It's being upfront and courteous because I'm just asking you to validate whether or not it's true, right? So these cartels already got that level of intelligence, and if they want to come after you, get into the Agape 423 guy, he's already been publishing stuff for several years. I've gone back and looked at his original videos and the first few things to see any type of vincula or any type of link to Ed that might develop. But he's wearing a passamontagna or a balaclava to try to conceal his identity. There are programs that will even pull out the measurements on that to where they can get the measurements of your face with facial recognition software and this type of thing. So, I mean, really, the moment you put something online and publish it, if the cartel really want to know who you are, they will. So I don't know why Agape would be hiding his identity when he's going to be sitting there publishing on YouTube as like a public persona for several years. Last but not least, Ed has turned himself into a public persona, right? Ed has taken it upon himself to be publishing stuff online since September of 2016, and even previously on that, publicly under Joe Yimbo and Yo Jimbo, depending on what site you're on, since 2010. And he involves himself with people like Billy Trident, who are notoriously secretive too about their identities. People that are telling the truth don't have to conceal their identity. It's that simple. And when you become a public persona, as I am now becoming, people are going to go digging through your past, so you better be telling the truth. And if you're not, it's sooner or later going to be found out. So conduct yourself honorably. They have Navy SEALs that have been vetted, that have been found to be lying because they embellish their stories. Don't do it. I can't do it. As soon as I get on these shows, and these shows have a substantial amount of viewers, it's we're talking in the neighborhood of a couple million people. My story is going to start becoming a thing. And I'm going to end with where I started. This person's got me blocked and doesn't want to have a conversation with me, and I now have a right to have a conversation with him because he is telling my politicians, I was born here. He wasn't. And when you come here and tell my politicians in the place of my birth things about stuff, and then you start making these claims, and I come to you wanting to validate these claims because I have a great deal. I have a vast wealth of knowledge of doing exactly what you say you did in Mexico, both from an operational standpoint or from a VIP protection standpoint, protecting the Dalai Lama, General Cienfuegos, and all these other things. I have a right to call it into question, and I'm going to. And I'm going to continue to do so until I answer these questions, because I was thinking at the end of that last video that I'd done that maybe, not the live one, the other, that maybe I got it wrong, and maybe he was police. And then I thought about it. The only reason I thought that he was police is because he's with Scott Babb or whatnot doing that seminar. But then I figured out you don't even need to be police to doing a training seminar. We've had lots of people on base that had nothing to do with police that could take pictures. It's super photogenic when he's with the Navy SEALs around that helicopter. Come to find out that photo is taken from the Navy SEAL base. Super photogenic, but he's been operating for 12 years and has No pictures of him in a truck, except on his Manifesto podcast years after he was active. He's got no pictures while he's active in the back of a truck. I'd love to see those. And plus, it's the internet. You can start inventing things. So you really got to dig and see if it's true. So, I mean, I've contacted human resources at the Fuerza Estatal, the FESC for you guys, the Fuerza Estatal de Seguridad Ciudadana in Mexico to find out if Ed was working there and when. These people are putting this stuff all over YouTube, so it's not a secret, okay? I'm not going to post for the next month. That's the how and why of it. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I just needed to put that out there so people know what's up, okay? Cheers.